We like to start every episode with a disclaimer that we are not professionals. Our conversations are solely based on our personal experiences, thoughts, and opinions. Nothing discussed here is meant to be taken as professional mental health or medical advice. If you have questions or need assistance, please seek the help of a licensed professional.
Discussions in this podcast may sometimes revolve around heavy material such as abuse, grooming, religious trauma, etc. Please listen with caution and prioritize your mental health first. Welcome to Trauma Bondage, the podcast where we talk about trauma, kinks, and non-traditional relationships and lifestyles from a queer lens. We are your hosts, Beth
And Brigitte. Hey.
Hey.
So for anybody who doesn't know us, or maybe if you do, we've both been in like a state of sheer gay panic for a hot minute. So
yeah.
You know what? Life is just fun.
Life is so fun when there's just so much gay panic to be had.
Yeah.
We're not giving you those dirty details right now.
No.
We're giving you other dirty details. Really dirty details.
By way of literature.
By way of books.
Yep.
Yeah. So today we're talking about books and specifically lit erotica.
Smut.
Smut. We love smut.
For sluts.
Is that a thing? Or did you just make that up?
I'm just speaking words. Bethany.
Smut for
I'm just
sluts?
existing.
I say this in every episode. I think about something you say. I want to put that on a fucking t-shirt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Merch.
Yeah, you're so quotable.
I'm just a natural merch machine. I said something the other day and Jen was like, I have to start writing down the bullshit that just comes out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Or I was like, wow, to be rich and unstable. She was like, what the fuck? And I was like, that would be really living the dream.
To be rich and unstable.
To be rich and unstable.
What about being not rich and unstable?
Awful. Why on earth would I want to be that?
I was going to say, is that the existence that we're living right now?
Correct.
Okay. As you'll notice, we both have a koozie with us today because it is one of those days where we are obviously thirsty bitches and we do need to hydrate. We did some activities last night that were very dehydrating for us, so don't mind.
I got a tattoo. I guess mine's dehydrating.
Yeah,
I don't fucking know.
It is.
I got a tattoo. She, didn't.
I got tequila.
So, I know you've talked a little bit about your history with like books and literotica and smut because like you were stealing books from garage sales and hiding them in your
and the public library
drawer.
Did I mention that?
You stole them from the library?
Yeah.
The library's free.
I couldn't check them out though. I was like too young to be checking out erotica. I was like 11.
There's no age limit.
I know, but like those old ladies at the library would be like,
they would be like, girl, we know, get it.
Call their mother. Like,
nah.
I was in a small town. Okay, so this is what I would do. I'll just tell you my history with all of this.
Give it to me.
As you guys heard in a previous episode, this is how I kind of like started exploring kink or like even knew what it was at all was because of books whenever I was younger. So I stole them from this church garage sale. And then I would also go to the library and I would go to like the See Me book section and I would grab one and I would take off the little like barcode thing in the library so like the alarm wouldn't go off because I didn't know if there was an alarm in the library or not if you took a book out without checking it out. I don't think there is.
I'm sorry, the steamy book section is the books are steamy and not the section is like steamy. Because my brain was like a section in the library that just was like a sauna.
Why did you think that?
I don't know. Anyway.
Oh my God, this is going to be one of those episodes.
So you would go to the...
So I would go to the section. I would grab the book that I wanted. I would take the little barcode off. I would do that in the bathroom. I love how I've had this like pride in myself of never being a klepto in my entire life, completely forgetting the fact that I used to steal books from the library.
Oh my God.
Like it was a thing.
You had pride that you weren't a klepto?
Yes, because everybody that I know was a klepto. I know you're going to say, I already know.
Guilty as charged.
Because it just tracks that you would be.
To this day.
Oh, I know. I've been to a restaurant with you. Where you've just been like, you and my girlfriend have been bonding over how many like small spoons you can steal.
There's a certain like large name brand company that I love to do it from. And Jen, like, one time she was like, I found a news article. It was like, woman gets arrested from stealing X amount of dollars from this store. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, you
from this store. And she was like, that's it. My wife's in jail. She was like, I didn't expect to find you at home when I came home from work.
We are degenerates, if y'all have not already realized.
What the fuck is this podcast about?
I know. I just, for some reason, had pride in, like, not being that type of degenerate until this moment where I'm realizing that, like, I was. I just never had anything else I wanted to steal. But I was like, spicy books?
Yeah.
On it.
Free spicy books from the library? Oh, no. You degenerate.
So I had nothing to do pretty much all day when I was that age because I was homeschooled. I would finish school at, like, noon. And then what is there to do the rest of the day except for read? So I would read, and I would hide, as I've previously mentioned, all of these books in my little cabinet. And it got to the point where I had so many of them that I had taken from the library that it was like there were too many for the cabinet. So I had to take a bag of them after I was done reading and go throw them in the dumpster so I could, like, start over.
Why would you throw the books in the dumpster?
I was 11. Where else was I supposed to put them?
If you're going to the library, just go stick them back on a shelf at the library and let them deal with it.
I didn't have, like, that elaborate
They
of, like,
have
a
book
scheme
drops
figured out yet.
Oh my God.
I didn't know.
Don't throw away your books, just donate them. Or, like,
Yeah.
leave them on a corner and let somebody else get them.
Well, if we're giving disclaimers, don't steal books from the library. Don't do that.
Yeah, just get a fucking library card and check them out.
Yeah, I had a library card. It was the content of which I was checking out that I could not get past. And also, you have to think about it this way. I'm way too young to drive. Who's taking me to the library? My parents. Yeah. They're, like, gonna go check out with me. So I used to have this, like, big purse that I would, like, put them in. Anyways, all that to say, that is my history with lit erotica. That's how it started out.
Poor Bethany
Yeah.
was, like, living in the little house on the prairie life and didn't have access to the internet.
I really
she
didn't.
had to get hers in, like, paper form. Because my dad also took me to the library, but I didn't go to the steamy book section because I was reading all mine on the fucking computer.
Yeah, well, when you had dial-up for years of your life until the age of, like, 18.
That'll do it.
And on a family shared computer, a desktop that was, like, a fucking, like, this size, you don't download lit erotica.
Online sex is a privilege. You're right.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. The links that I went, you don't understand.
To get turned on.
From lit erotica. I was committed. Like, I really was. So, I don't want to hear it. I'm an OG.
I get it.
OG.
I get it. I would have gone to those links if I didn't have access as well. So, you know what? I do not judge you for that at all. So, yeah. I just like to give you shit.
I know. Everybody does.
Brat in me.
Everybody does.
But for me, because I've talked about, like, my experience with porn, like, early on, because, like, that was, like, that's where I started. Mm-hmm. And I'm really not into it anymore. Like, maybe if I need some inspiration, but, like, it's not legit.
Yeah.
It's not accurate, especially in the queer world, but, like, it doesn't matter what you watch. It's just kind of like, eh. So I, like, learned that early on, too, where I was just kind of like, none of this is, like, truly doing it for me. Like, it helps with inspiration, but, like, I need more vivid imagination and, like, things that they're doing and, like, some of the noises that they're making. I'm like,
It's not realistic. It doesn't feel real.
Yeah, and that's how I moved into, like, the reading of it. So there was this website called, like, literotica.com.
Okay.
And I was obsessed with it.
Of course you were.
Obsessed with it. And it was this, like, really shitty little website at the time. Like, it was way back when. But it just had all of these anonymous writers, and it had, like, every genre of, like, smut-esque things that you could possibly want.
Is it still a thing?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And it varied. So, like, there were some that were, like, short stories. So it was like, you know, when you would read, like, the back of Cosmo and they had, like, the sex story in the back of Cosmo, and it was like, we're being scandalous.
I remember. I remember.
But it was like gentle, spicy, because obviously it's like Cosmo, so it's mainstream. Yeah. These were, like, an elevated version of some of those, or people who, like, maybe were aspiring to, like, get picked up to be used in Cosmo.
Yeah.
And then you had people that would, like, do it in parts, and it was anywhere from, like, religious, like, nuns and priests and shit like that, to, like, keeping it in the family. like incest, or, like, all kinds of shit.
Okay.
It was everywhere.
So
like,
it basically ranged for like any kink that you could have.
any
you
kink
would find a
that
book
you could have
that would cover it.
Yeah,
Okay.
a book or a short story or like a multi-parted series, like almost like reading like fan fiction, but like
Right.
sexy. And like there were like some fan fiction-esque kind of
Right.
things without like the names being put into it. So talk about a really great resource for somebody who is
Yeah.
trying to understand their sexuality, and obviously ended up being somebody who's really into kink and like some weird fucking shit, like getting to read through all of that and being like, ooh.
Did you ever feel bad when you were reading stuff by what you were turned on by in the books?
Absolutely.
Okay, because same.
Absolutely.
I would be like, ooh, like I really should not be feeling this way about this specific thing. But looking back, I'm like, why would they write it if you weren't supposed to feel that way about it?
And at this time, like this was Tales of Straight Bridget, because I was like, I'm straight. Like, obviously I get turned on by like the woman loving woman ones and stuff like that. But like, even to this day, there are things that I like that are heterosexual, like paired. Like that's what a lot of the ones I read, which there's not that much out there. Like it's starting to become more mainstream for a little bit more queer, like romance smutty stuff, but at the time, like it was very, very hetero based. Or it was like a fetishized version. But like even to this day, I still like a lot of the hetero based ones simply because of like the dynamic between the two. When they're talking about it, I'm like, I'm not thinking about a dude, I'm thinking about like a dom or like
I'm thinking about the pleasure that the woman is experiencing. Like I'm putting myself like it literally in her shoes.
I'm more interested in like the control aspect than like what he looks like and the stuff like stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Okay.
And then like I'm a very avid reader. We know this. I have like a goal every year that I have to read the number of books that correlate with like the year. So this year is 2023 and I'm reading 23 books.
Oh my God. So like every
least.
year that you get older, the more books you're going to have to read every year.
Yeah. Or I'll have to like eventually change that. But the thing is I read at least 23. Usually I surpass it. So like I'm doing more.
Are you reading all of them like paper form, or do you read
Most.
any on Kindle or listen?
I do have Kindle Unlimited.
Okay.
I have a hard time with audiobooks, frankly.
So I do too, but I have found that because of my schedule, especially like my work schedule, it is the only way that I will actually finish a fucking book.
See, I can't do it because I zone out. So I stop listening. Like I'm good at tuning things out that distract me.
You have to be focused.
I hyper focus. That's why. So like I can't do it.
I will say
and
it doesn't
I'm weird about
hit
voices.
as hard.
I'm weird about voices.
Oh yeah. If the voice is weird in an audiobook, and especially if it's a sexy book,
can't do it. Can't do
off.
it. Or if it's like too smooth, I'll just fall asleep. Like I just can't do them.
No, I agree.
And I love paper. I'm sorry. I'm a slut for a bookstore.
I know.
I love it. I love paper.
I was like, y'all just witnessed a moment.
That's a kink.
Between Bridget and her book.
Yeah, no, I love bookstores. Like that's one of my happy places. It's like, give me coffee, put me in a bookstore, let me go look at all the books and
I feel like I need to make time for it again, because I used to be the same way, like before I had such a demanding job. Like I would 100% prefer to have a book in my hand. Because I can focus better that way.
I like my Kindle Unlimited for when I travel.
Yes, 100%.
Because it's way easier to bring that and have like multiple books on it than me carrying around like 7 books. Because on vacation, like I just was gone for 2 weeks. And I read like 4 books while I was on vacation. Mind you, crazy. I did bring books with me. Because I'm not going to get them on my Kindle if I already have them in like a solid form.
So what was it that books, like outside of even just like kinky books, but like in general, what do books like do for you?
Escapism.
Well, I thought you would say that.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like from what we've heard about my childhood, just the minor things that we've talked about, like I was always in survival mode. So like escapism was the important piece. And then of course, as sexuality got put into it and I moved into like the smutty stuff, it was like getting to utilize my imagination and like when you have a high libido, but also like sex positive and stuff like that, like it's an additional avenue of pleasure.
Exactly.
So and it also made me really good at writing like sexting.
Oh, yeah, 1,000%.
Like, really good at it, where I've had, like, my friends be like, I don't even know what to say. I want to keep this going, but I'm not good at it. And I'm like, just give me your phone. I'll do it for you.
I'll sext for you.
My sister does this, too.
Actually,
she's really good at it.
That is a thing. He's like, my girlfriend?
Yes. My sister's really good at sexting. We talked about it a long time ago where we were like, we should set up like a business for you where like people like on Fiverr like give you money and you like write their like erotica to send to their significant others.
I want to ask Wolf right now if he's ever experienced He's
like, My lips are sealed. I can't
He said,
say.
I don't kiss and tell. I don't sext and tell.
Yeah.
So one of my love languages when I'm first like starting to date somebody, or even like when I'm dating them, like is sexting. I'm sapio.
Yep.
I'm
Same.
like fully
Hardcore.
sapio. And so if you don't sext me or you don't know how to sext, it's
bored.
not going to work.
I'm bored.
I'm bored. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like, I'm a huge sexter. That's like one thing that like in my like relationship dynamic, I've put as like a non-negotiable. I have to be able to sext other people.
Yeah,
because
Jen,
I need
Jen
to.
and I talked about that
Yeah.
with our couples therapist,
Yep.
which is your therapist.
Shout out Dr. Scott.
We love you. But yeah, that was one of my non-negotiables. I was
Yep.
like, I have to be able to do that.
1000%. I feel like we're the same in that way. Because I'm like, it's almost better than actually fucking somebody sometimes.
It's a build-up.
Yes, exactly.
We love the build-up.
Yeah, that's why I don't really enjoy like just straight one night stands when I haven't been talking to somebody, because like as somebody who's sapio, like you haven't done anything for my brain yet.
But also when you're doing that and writing it,
Yeah.
you're writing like what you want,
Exactly.
engaging what they want in the moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But books were like the way that I learned how to talk, like to your point, like I know what to say, I know what I like, I know like the way to phrase things to where it's gonna like hit. And I think it's because of how much erotica that I've read.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, this is how I feel when I read this. Mm-hmm. And this is how like there are some things that I've read that I'm
make
like,
it really enjoyable to read.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God. What are you reading right now?
Okay. So I'm reading 2 books actually simultaneously. Do you do this ever when you like read 2 books at a time?
I can. I prefer not to.
Yeah. It's a little bit of like a mental like shift. Yeah. The helpful thing about the 2 books I'm reading right now though is they are very similar to each other. So one of them is called Evil Boys.
Oh. Are they standalones or are they series?
They're both series.
See, that's where I have a hard time because I love series.
So-
and I just want to read the whole series in one sitting. But then
Yeah.
like the last book isn't out. So I'm like, I got to go read something else.
Yeah, it's hard. So Evil Boys, I'll just talk about this one first. So that's by Clarissa Wilde. She has 2 other books in the series called Sick Boys and Vile Boys. That one's coming soon.
Ooh.
So premise of, I actually found out about this book on Booktok.
I love Booktok.
Shout out Booktok.
Booktok.
We fucking love you. We are Booktok girlies, in case anybody hadn't already figured that out. But yeah, so I follow a lot of like Booktok and like BDSM pages on TikTok, and it came up in like the recommended. So I was like, I need to go like read this.
Save.
So the premise is there is a girl in college, and she is an heiress to like a pretty big like fortune. Her family is like really like high up, whatever. And she is trying to be like a normal girl at college, like without anybody really like knowing who she is. And she has some trauma that she's gone through, and that trauma has made her outlet and her spare time be murdering pedophiles.
Oh, good for her.
So she's like a vigilante. Yeah, she's a queen. So she's a queen. So she wears a red ribbon in her hair all the time to like signify like what she actually does. But she has like a very like
Interesting.
normal life. So she's like, she hunts these people down on the internet who are child predators, murders them. Okay. And then she has this rivalry going with these three guys who are in a fraternity that is like opposite her sorority. Like they do not get along. And she finds out when she's at one of her kills that they do the same thing together. And so they start competing for kills. Trigger warning. There is a lot of CNC or just like non-consensual scenes in this book between her and these boys. But if you're into CNC, like you will like it. They like at one point kidnap her, and
You're fucking kidnapping kink. But
there's like a
living
scene
for
where
it.
like she gets fucked with like the handle of a knife, like
Yeah.
the back of a
The hilt.
knife by one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she ends up like kind of simultaneously starting to have a thing with each of these guys. And then I haven't gotten to the end of the book yet, but I know what happens. Like she's gonna end up like being with all 3 of them
At the same time.
at the same time.
We love that.
We love that. I'll read an excerpt from that one in a little bit because I have one because I want the listeners to like feel the vibe. Or do you want me to read it now?
Yeah, why don't we?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to read an excerpt from it. And you're going to die. Okay. So this is a scene between her and the 3 boys. The knife cuts through my outfit with acute precision, and the long-sleeve black crop top splits apart right in the middle, falling sideways to expose my breasts. The groans of arousal that emanate from all 3 of them is something else. Feast your eyes, boys, Kai says, the sound of his low voice laced with desire reverberating through my goddamn bones as he steps back to take a good look. His eyes, along with Milo's, sweep over my naked body, my nipples peaked from the cold and their hungry gazes. Fuck you, I growl. Such a potty mouth, Nathan says, pinching my cheeks together with one hand. I can feel his body pressed up to my back. It's time someone fucked that rage out of you. Now kneel. You okay?
I was pinching my cheeks together like he did in the book.
One hand pushes down onto my shoulder, onto my knees, and they cave under me. I'm forced onto the cold, wet street with soaked jeans. Kai smirks and slowly unzips his pants, and I can tell he has great pleasure in watching me follow his every move. He pulls out a cock so huge and rigid, littered with piercings. I have
littered
with piercings. I'm like, how many piercings can you have on one dick?
I'm worried.
I swallow the lump in my throat. You remember this cock, don't you? He tips my chin up with a knife. When you so desperately licked it after I made you come all over this blade. My blade. That's it.
Oh.
So yeah, it's one of those books. Is that the type of shit that you've read yet? Or is that the type of shit that you're like getting into slowly?
Okay, so I have like Booktok. Love Booktok.
Right.
I, unfortunately, am one of those people that has a to-be-read pile a mile high. So I feel guilty when I buy a new book, but like also not. But it's just constantly getting up. So I also am like obsessed with series, and I'm like in this series that still has books, but also has spin-off series that you like read with it in tandem.
You're like in a rabbit hole of series.
I'm in a rabbit hole of series right now. So I've got to like swim out. But those are on my list of like, I have a whole fucking list of books that I want to buy and start getting into, and they are on that end of the spectrum. I just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. Because that's like intense, like there's like I don't even know what the genre is called, but there's like a genre of erotica that is very like hunter prey, like it's very like CNC focused, and there's a lot of that in this book, and that is like some people's cup of tea, and it's not other people's cup of tea.
I think it would be my cup of tea.
I think it would be your cup of tea.
I know it would. I just haven't gotten there yet. So like it's only a matter of time. So I will read those. Like I love a good recommendation.
You need to read this series whenever you're ready.
I'll get there. We'll get there.
So I'm reading that one, and then the other book that I'm reading like simultaneously with that one is called Haunting Adeline, and I actually heard about this book from our lash artist.
Yes, because she just told me at my most recent thing, and she was telling me about it, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
And she was like, I recommended it to Bethany, and she's reading it right now. And
we've been texting about it all week because she turned me onto it, and I was like, okay, I know we have like this episode coming up. Let me just like start reading it so that like there's another one that like I can recommend that's like in a similar like genre. So this one,
Haunting Adeline.
Okay. The second book in the series is called Hunting Adeline.
Yep.
Woo. Yeah. So this one's even more fucked up.
Yay.
This book is fucked up. This is about
just smooth my skirt out.
This one I've had to take breaks reading. That's how fucked up it is.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
We love that.
There is a woman named Adeline. She's an author. She lives in this old like Victorian mansion that's like been in her family for generations. And she is trying to solve the murder of her great-grandmother while she's there, because she found an old diary of hers and like found out that her great-grandmother had a stalker. And the stalker is somebody that she fell in love with. And then her grandmother was brutally murdered. So she's trying to figure out who the fuck did it. Like, was it the stalker? Was it not the stalker?
No.
I don't know the answer to that question. I feel like it probably was the husband, but that's just me speculating. Mm-hmm. So she's doing that, and simultaneously, there is this man, they call him the Shadow in the book, who sees her at one of her book signings and instantly is obsessed with her. Like, he is like ravenously like, I have to have this woman. There's like nobody else that can have her. She's mine. So this guy on the side is a vigilante as well. And he takes down...
You're so on your vigilante shit.
I literally am just like, these books are like the same book. He takes down rings of child predators as well. But he also works like undercover, like taking down like sketchy shit that's going on in the government, whatever. He's basically an assassin. And he's like a pro at torturing people.
An assassin.
Assassin. He is a fucking ass. This guy is a dick. So he starts stalking her and like showing up at her house like late at night, and his theme is like leaving a red rose like every time he's around her.
Oh my God, how very Phantom of the Opera of
him.
him.
It is very Phantom of the Opera. And so she's made aware that she has a stalker, and so she's basically like, fuck you to the stalker, being like, I'm not gonna like stop living my life because you exist.
Yeah.
So I'm at the part in the book where she brings a man home, spoiler alert, and he like obviously sees, and he texts her, and he's like, if you let him touch you, I'm gonna leave both of his hands on your front door to find.
I did do it.
And she is like, fuck you. Like, if I want to have sex with this man, I'm going to. So she does. And then he murders him.
Oh, that poor dude.
Which you find out like 2 seconds after that he was not a good guy, like the guy that he murdered.
Okay.
They give you so many reasons in these books to be like, to justify
like root
this
for
horrible
the murderer.
behavior.
It's like Dexter all over again. You root for the like serial killer.
Yes, exactly. So that book is pretty insane. I have heard the second one is more fucked up than the first one. So this is one that like I would not recommend if you are not like okay with like 100% like non-consensual sex scenes and also like violence. Like that's why I've had to take a break, because there are some scenes in it that are like very graphically violent.
And, like tough.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's good to know.
I'll read the excerpt from this one, and then I want to talk about yours.
Duh. Mine are in a very different world from yours right now, but that's okay.
Yeah.
This is why we vibe. Like we have two ends of the spectrum here. And we could both easily like flip into the other. Mm-hmm. Mine are a little less chaotic.
Yeah. It's fine. I know that I'm fucked up. It's okay.
It's okay.
Okay, so this is a scene between the stalker and Adeline.
Okay.
Taken care of how? You're gonna murder him too? Of course I am. Slowly, too. Start with snipping the Achilles heel so he can't run, and then... That's fucked up. You're going to jail, she cuts in, disgust curling her lip. Actually, I hope you go to prison and are sentenced to death. She turns with a snarl, but she doesn't make it a step before my hand snaps out, capturing her arm and whipping her back around directly into my chest. Addie inhales sharply, her eyes dilating as I seize the back of her neck with one hand and grab her delectable ass with the other, lifting her up against my body. Will you be my last meal, baby? Her mouth parts and her breathing hitches. Those light brown eyes are wide and swollen with emotion, shock, awe, desire. I lean in close, my mouth hovering a mere inch from hers. You taste like heaven. I could feast on that sweet little pussy for hours and still die a starving man. It'll be the closest I will ever get to God before they inject me with a needle, don't you agree?
Wow. Who's this written by? What's the author's name?
I think it's H.G. Carlton. Let me
Okay.
double check. Yeah, H.G. Carlton. I don't know if it's a man or a woman.
Yeah, you'll never know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm always interested because, like, I have a tendency to not want to read anything written by men. Mm-hmm. Because they do some weird shit sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's written by a man or a woman. But it's a fucked up book. It's good, though. It's good. It's one of those where I'm like, I haven't necessarily been turned on by the book yet because of how violent it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's so violent, but it's still intriguing.
There is a market for everything.
Yes.
So, like, there are a demographic of reader that's going to really be into something like that.
100%.
In the darker stuff.
Yeah.
I like that.
Our Lash Girl is one of them. She's the demographic.
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Shout out. Okay, let's lighten it up and talk about yours.
Oh, yeah, totally. So mine are, I'm a nerd. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You know.
No hesitation. Yes. Correct. We know.
As previously stated.
I'm a major nerd. I know this. I know this. And just in general, books that I like to read are like fantasy based, not like sexual fantasy, like fantasy, like dragons and fairies and magical worlds and all kinds of shit.
Which I love that shit too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's
fantasy
so much fun.
is good.
Honestly, and it makes it even better when it's in like a sexual sense because like you add in magic and like powers and stuff like that. And you're like, there's extra levels to like power struggles and power dynamics because it's like all this crazy shit that's going on. So Booktok, I was influenced fully by this one. And there's this author, and her name is Scarlett St. Clair.
Okay.
Scarlett St. Clair. She is, she has a couple of different author names. I think she started with 3, and like a couple of them are being fused together for different genres because she writes different genres. Like, not everything she writes is smut.
Okay.
Other things are fantasy or like fiction of some form.
Is this what you would consider smut, this book?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is. So this is what I've been reading recently, and I'm one of those people that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go buy like the first book.
Yeah.
Because this is a series specifically that I'm reading. I'm gonna go buy the first book, and if I like it, I will go back and buy every single one of the others.
Yeah.
And that's how I find some of my favorite authors.
Okay, that makes sense.
So this one, all of her works are, at least so far, of the smut variety, are based in like Greek mythology.
So
of
hot.
some sort, which like Madeline Miller came out with like Circe and all those other books and stuff like that. And then like these started coming up and I was like, ooh, like sexy Greek mythology. 5th grade Bridget is feeling her oats right now. Like, I was obsessed with Greek mythology. I was that kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, this is really right up my alley. So this one right now it's called A Touch of Malice. It is the 3rd book in her series.
Okay.
I finished it. And it, like, spoiler alert, it completely leaves you on a fucking cliffhanger at the end of it where you're just like, what the fuck is happening?
Oh my
Like, I
God.
was pissed. But
You got edged.
I was like, yes, kind of. And like the drama, because the thing is, it's I have a hard time with books that like the plot sucks and there's no story and it's just the sex scenes and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, cool. This is like, you could take the sex scenes out and it would still be a phenomenal standalone fiction novel, right? Or like series, and you would still love it. So like you've got that, like it feels like you're watching a movie. Like I wouldn't be surprised if these got picked up to be a movie, like 50 Shades of Grey nonsense or like a TV series or something like that. So good. So well written. But the sex scenes alone are like fun. And what I also love about her is that she doesn't make you wait until halfway through the book to get like a kiss.
Anything steamy.
It's like in the first like 20 to 40 pages.
Okay.
Like we're getting some steam early on, even in the first book. So this is the 3rd in the series. And when I finished it, I was like, I have to go get the 4th one right now because I knew that there was a 4th one. I get to the bookstore and I ask them, I'm like, hey, like, where is this? I cannot find it anywhere. Like, did you guys run out of it? And they were like, it doesn't come out till March. And I was like,
that is torture.
But also like good for me for being so early. So I pre-ordered it. So we're good. But on top of it, so this series, specifically this one, is based on Hades and Persephone.
Okay.
Which are like my favorite Greek mythological characters because I love me some Hades and I love me some Persephone. And she has a spin-off series that's like the Hades saga. So it's about him and he's hot.
Yeah.
We love that.
Of course he is.
I bought all of those books because I was there and I was like, I can't get the 4th one. I'll just buy all the other Hades books. And you can read them like while, like you can infuse each book like into it in the order that you're doing it. So like it's like you can read alongside while you're reading this series, like both.
So is it like his perspective while he's going through? Ooh.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know. Because like these are mostly Persephone's perspective.
Okay.
And then like sometimes it'll switch a little bit to him, but like that's like all him. So I'm so excited about that.
Oh my God,
And
I
then
love
she
that.
has another series that's like separate from that. That's about Tristan and Isolde. I haven't gotten to that one yet. Obviously I will be because I'm obsessed with all of these. But I'm like, I just want to get through these.
Yeah.
I can skip to a new world because I struggle a little bit with that. But I'm obsessed. I highly recommend them to anybody who's nerdy like me. And they fluctuate. So there are there are themes of CNC in part of the book. There are more gentle themes there. There's also trigger warning and spoiler alert.
There we go.
Like some sexual assault stuff, and then like healing from that through like control and stuff like that. So it's interesting, and it's got lots of different themes and kind of like a little bit of everything for anyone.
I love
which
that.
is nice. And
I really want to read this series now because I'm like, I love Greek mythology too.
Like the first book, like one of the first things that like really hits is like they're like fucking in a steamy bath or something like that, and you're just like, ooh, like this is fun, and it's very like it's fun. So my excerpt's much longer than yours. It's like a couple pages.
Well, that's why you only have one.
Lock in.
I'm in. I'm here.
Spoiler alert in this part as well. They have gotten to the point in the relationship where they have gotten married.
Okay.
Which we love.
We love that. We love marriage for the right people.
We love that for them. This couple, like you just fall in love with this couple. You're like, yes. And like, it's just one obstacle after the other. And you're like, no, we're going to get through it. It's going to be fine. We have to let them do all the things. They have magic in this because they're gods and they can do whatever they want. They have powers. And he has, she's interested. She's exclaimed her interest in restraints. So he has something called the chains of truth. She's like, what?
Say what?
And they're a weapon that gods use. They can use against other gods because she's obviously also a goddess. And they have a password.
So it's like a safe word.
It's a safe word. Yeah, it's a safe word. And they automatically free you if you have the safe word, the password. But otherwise, they can't be taken off without it.
Love this.
Right? So he gives her the safe word password, which it's like Elefthros-ton. It's like
what the fuck
like
does that
Greek.
even mean?
I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly need to Google it because I'm kind of curious. I forgot about it and I need to go back and Google it and figure out what it is. But it's funny because she has a moment where he's like, do this. And he's like, are you ready? And she's like, I just want you to move faster. God damn it. And then she's like, oh, now I get it. Because they force truth to spill out of your lips when you're restrained by these chains. Okay. It's like a Veritaserum for the Harry Potter freaks, which we'll hop into that here in a minute.
Doesn't Wonder Woman do that with her whip too?
No fucking idea. I'm a Marvel girl, not a DC girl.
I loved Wonder Woman. I thought she was so hot. Anyways, continue.
Wonder Woman or Gal Gadot?
Gal Gadot is hot. But Wonder Woman is also hot. Anyways.
She's all right.
Hit me.
What do you want, wife? Action, she said, wiggling beneath him. If she could, she would reach for him, but her wrists strained against the bindings. Hades chuckled and then pressed a kiss between her breasts. She rose against his touch, her legs twined around his. She wanted the friction of his body against hers, but Hades continued, trailing his lips down her stomach as he untangled himself from her grasp. She let him go and allowed her legs to fall open, shameless, ready, desperate. Hades stared at her hungrily before hooking his arms beneath her hips, lifting her ass and licking her slick folds. A low growl came from somewhere deep in his chest. I love this. He descended, tongue parting her and teasing her clit. He spread her wider so he could go deeper, and soon his fingers were inside her, curling. Persephone's heels dug into the bed, her fingers twined around the chains, and her head pressed hard into the pillow beneath her. She felt so wound up, so tight, so flushed, that Hades' warm mouth closed over her clit, and he sucked. It was gentle and followed by slow circling. Her breath caught on a loud moan, and Hades pulled away, his fingers still working inside her. That's it, darling. Tell me how it feels.
Okay.
It's good. So good. She managed to look at him, perspiration building across his forehead, eyes lustful and gleaming. Then his mouth closed over her clit again, tongue vibrating against it. Her head fell back as she moaned. His pace was consistent, and the pressure built and twisted until her limbs shook with release. Hades pressed kisses to the insides of her thighs, back up her stomach, her breasts, her neck, before finding his way to her lips. He kissed her before standing. Where are you going? Not far, wife, Hades promised as he stepped out of his slacks. Her eyes scanned every part of his body. He was huge and imposing, the muscles of his arms, abs, and legs cut and conditioned, his body a tool and a weapon. "Tell me your thoughts," he said. Persephone shuddered as the words came from her mouth. "It doesn't matter how often you are inside me. It's not enough." Hades chuckled and climbed on top of her again, settling between her legs. He pressed his body flush against hers. "I love you," he said. "I love you." This is right after their wedding. She'd said the words so often and meant them deeply, but this time they brought tears to her eyes. Tonight, they hit differently. Tonight, she felt as though she understood love in a way she never had before. It was wild and free, passionate and desperate. It encompassed every emotion in an attempt to make sense of the world that challenged it. "Are you well?" Hades asked, his voice a rough whisper. Persephone nodded. "Yes, I am just thinking of how much I truly love you." Hades' expression intensified, his gaze stripping away every layer of her soul, and then he kissed her before lifting himself and guiding his head against her opening. She pressed her heels into his ass on an attempt to push him inside, but he resisted, chuckling, only to lift her legs so that they were propped against his shoulders, sliding inside her, and his eyes held hers, hungry and carnal. Persephone gasped, a guttural sound that scraped against her throat. Her fingers curled into fists, the binding cutting into her wrists. The pleasure of his thrust was deep and lush, each stroke unearthing a moan, a sigh, a wave of pleasure. Take a sip, girl.
Like, sips tea.
"You feel so good," Hades said through his teeth, his face glistening. His long hair coming loose from its binds as he moved. So tight, so wet. Eleftheros ton. Which is the safe word.
She said the safe word?
He did.
Oh.
He commanded, and her restraints were suddenly gone. He released her legs and let them fall around him. Their mouths collided in a hot kiss, and Persephone's hands combed through his hair until it fell around his shoulders. Fuck. Fuck. His curse shivered through her, and then he left her body completely, and she made an animalistic sound. She reached for him as he sat back and pulled her into his lap, wrapping her legs around his waist. Then he was inside her again, and she moved against him. Every sensation was delicious. The way her muscles gripped him, the way her nipples grazed his chest, the light scrape of his hair on her clit. Their lips collided awkwardly as Hades began to help her along his length, moving faster the closer he came to release until he emptied himself inside of her. After their breaths were heavy, their bodies slick, Hades fell back against the bed with Persephone in his arms. She felt dazed and boneless and so happy. She began to laugh. "I will refrain from thinking you were laughing at my performance, wife," Hades said. That made her laugh harder. "No," she said, lifting herself so she could look up at him. His face was free of tension, and his smile seemed so easy, a lazy curve of his lips that was only for her. She reached to brush her fingers along his brow and cheek. Then she rested her head against his chest and said, "You were everything." Hades rolled so that they were on their sides, facing each other, their legs tangled. "You are my everything," he said. "My first love, my wife, the first and last queen of the underworld." The word struck her, each one a part of her identity, an identity she had created from the ashes of her past. It was beautiful and breathtaking. Her heavy eyes closed with those words on repeat. Goddess, wife, queen.
I have to read this book.
It's so good.
It's so beautiful. I was going to say
written.
It's beautiful.
And like this is one of the moments where like there's so much like love in it too, because it's like it's a very loving moment. Not all of them is like
right.
Some of it is like woo.
Right.
There was a moment I was on the plane when I was on my trip and I was reading part of this, and I got to it, and Jen was like, "Are you okay?" Because I was just like,
you were just
like I was losing my shit
on the plane.
on the plane. I like there are so many moments where like you'll read it and you'll just want to like chuck it out. Like there are so many times where I was like sitting on the balcony of this freaking villa in Croatia that were there, and I would be like, like,
is it because they can't be together? Like there's like things that are keeping them apart?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's like so many elements that keep them apart. Like if you know anything about the story of like Persephone in general, like obviously a lot of these, like there's some shifts to it because it's fiction and you can have creative changes, but like there's a lot of stuff from like her mom to like her powers to being part of like this certain like group in school that she was in for, to like Zeus and his nonsense.
Yeah.
Because Zeus always
Fucking
has nonsense.
Zeus. Yeah.
So like there's a number of things throughout the series that are like an obstacle,
Okay.
like I said, for their relationship. And also like the way that they get together is through like a bet that she loses. So like she's got to like do this kind of thing. So it's really interesting. Like he like Hades owns like nightclubs and like all kinds of shit and like sketchy things and like does deals and stuff like that. And he turns out being like actually a really decent human being, or God, but
not a human.
But yeah, it's a really great series.
Is it set in modern times or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very modern, which I love.
I was gonna say I feel like that I would like that better than it being set in like ancient times.
It's a very modernized version of it, and it's a very like souped up version of like Lore Olympus if you're like somebody who likes the webtoons. Shout out nerds on the webtoon universe. But yeah, so I really, really love that.
I love that.
Yeah.
That excerpt was really good.
It's good.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not even the spiciest. That's like a good mild.
That was mild, but it was
some people.
It was also very like loving and cute. Like
it is.
You know what's crazy is like when you can like read something and like relate to it and be like, I've felt that before.
Yeah.
Like I have experienced that.
You can really relate to a lot of the ones in there, and you can like visualize them and actually put yourself in them. Like it's never really going to be too much for you.
Yeah.
Like maybe some of the ones that you're reading might be too much for somebody.
Much for people,
this is something that's going to be a little bit more in like maybe a good intro series to the smut world for people.
For sure.
And especially if you like fantasy. Because I'm a massive nerd.
And I'll also say like most of the books that are intense and like cover any topics that might be triggering, like they usually do have trigger warnings.
Yep.
And like content warnings. So like read those if you're like ever worried about like what might be in one of the books. Like if you want something that's like a slower start, then like the books will tell you what they're going to be about.
Don't grab a book off the shelf and just go in, especially in this world, just because like you never know what you're getting into.
You really never know. You never know.
Unless you like take it easy.
I have one more book to talk about. I don't have an excerpt, but I wanted to talk to you about this Tris 6 Venom book.
Oh, okay.
That I have read.
Yeah. And
this is one that I know that you have a long list, but like I want you to read this book out of all the ones I'm reading.
Everyone just add books to my list, please. Like just I might as well. Like I'm probably gonna have a to be read pile that like I die before I finish it, but like I might as well have the pile.
So Tris 6 Venom is by Penelope Douglas.
Ooh.
She's an amazing writer, and she is a smut writer.
I love female smut writers.
She's so fucking good, and most of her characters are like heterosexual couples. This was her first lesbian romance novel. It is a bully romance. So for people that don't know what a bully romance is, it's basically like enemies turned lovers in the book. And so it's like in a bully romance, typically there's like a lot of like back and forth of like sexual tension intertwined with like enemies and like people like hating each other. So it's like hate and like sexual tension at the same time. And then it like at the end of those types of books, typically it's like they end up together and they like fall in love.
Frenemies with benefits.
Yeah. So this book is set in, I think it's actually set in a high school setting, but they're both 18 in the book. Like they're both like seniors in high school. And the two girls are, one of them is like the captain of the lacrosse team. And she's like a very like prissy, like rich girl and like kind of a bitch. And everybody like basically like caters to her, but she's just genuinely very unhappy because her brother died of cancer a couple of years before, and her dad is cheating on her mom. So like her home life is like shit. So she like takes all of this out on other people at school. And then her enemy in the book is a girl from like the other side of the tracks who has 5 brothers and is an out lesbian and also is on the lacrosse team. Bitch, when I tell you this book is so fucking hot, like
lacrosse is so gay.
Lacrosse is so gay. It's so gay.
Like I know softball is like the lesbian sport, but like lacrosse is a close second.
Lacrosse is gay. So they're both on the lacrosse team, and there's like a scene in the beginning where like this girl, like the one from the other side of the tracks, like has to help the main girl like get her like prom dress together, and there's just like this sexual tension between them as she's like helping her get dressed, but they're also just like talking shit to each other the entire time because they fucking hate each other.
They're like bratting each other.
They literally are bratting each
Yay!
other. But the girl that's the lesbian, and I don't know why I can't remember their names right now. But she is like the top. But like the other girl is like definitely like bratting her, pushing her buttons all the time, like saying shit to her to make her mad.
Of course, the other side of the tracks girl is the top. She's like the rough around the edges.
Exactly.
Always
I'm like,
case.
I wish I feel like I'm actually dating her. She reminds me of my girlfriend. Now that I think about it, like her personality is like very similar. Mm-hmm. But when I was reading it, I was not with my girlfriend. I was like, damn, I wish this person existed because she's so
manifested.
hot. I literally did. I literally did, and I'm realizing that right now. So I don't have an excerpt for that one, but I highly recommend. Okay. Because it is honestly really hard to find lesbian like romance novels that are worth fucking reading.
Seriously.
Like it is very difficult to find sapphic content that's not so fucking vanilla that I want to go to sleep.
Or like fluffy.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You know?
I'm like, give me something
right
to work
now,
with.
what I've seen on like Booktok, like all the women loving women stuff, it's not on the level of like smut that I want it to be on.
No.
It's like very like YA,
it's soft,
chill.
Agreed.
Like there's tension, but there's never a real touch. Like that's where it ends. So I'm gonna dive into that and see if I can come up with like a list for people. I really like to find some good. Women-loving women.
Six Venom is like the best one that I've read when it comes to like if you're like a kinky person at all.
Yeah.
And like you like some level of intensity. It's got like all of those elements, but it's also really well written and it's gay as fuck. So yeah, highly recommend.
We love gay shit.
I mean, we are gay, so that makes sense. We do be gay.
We do be
gay.
My last one is also for the nerds of the world. I know. I just can't help it.
It's fine. We know. We accept who you are.
You know what? Like
we love who you are.
You can definitely tell who on this couch was a cool kid and who wasn't. In school. I
didn't even go to school for most of my life.
And you were still probably cooler than me. So to put it out there, like I was the quiet kid in school that like sat in the back of the class that did really well in class. And like all my teachers loved me. I was doing like degenerate bullshit on the back end. Like nobody knew. I was like the secret slut.
It's always the quiet
and
ones.
like doing the drugs. I was the quiet one. Like I was absolute freak. Like the quiet ones were the freaks. But like I was sitting in the back of the class like reading a dictionary for fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
a dictionary.
As you do.
Yes,
I did that too.
Love that shit.
We're both fucking nerds. I just don't nerd out about the same stuff as you do.
I know. I nerd out about like the truly nerdy fantasy world nonsense. Yeah, like I love that shit. So for my queers and non-queers, but like especially for the queers, because we know how we feel about a certain author of a wizarding world, being a TERF, and this is a story that is based on the Harry Potter world, but you don't have to give your money to JK. You don't have to. Like, if you're worried about that and that's something that you're like, I will not be giving my money to that, this is somebody that you can, because none of your money will be going to her. It'll solely be going to this individual.
And this is also sexier. Why would you not?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's basically, so it's fan fiction, essentially, that has really picked up in popularity here lately. And it is like, it's a whole book. And it's got so many upvotes and so many it's got like one chapter will have like 6,000 comments on it.
Who is it written by?
Sen Lin Yu.
Okay.
And I actually found an excerpt, so I may have to read it for us.
Read it. I want to hear it.
Okay. So I have a very small snippet.
Okay.
It is not like an aggressive sex thing.
Okay.
But what is nice about this, it's called Manacled. So anybody who's like into this world and loves the Harry Potter world knows about this book. Like, it is so popular right now, but like you have to be in that niche little pocket of people.
That's why I have not heard of it.
Yeah, but I'm also a huge Potterhead, and I always have been. Like, absolutely love it. It was what got me into reading in the first place. When I was like 10. So I really do love the world. Just hate, it's like love the art, hate the artist kind of thing like that. So that's where we're at. But this is a great read. And it is, again, fanfic, and it is a ship for Hermione and Malfoy.
Okay.
Is
Malfoy the blonde kid?
Yes.
Okay.
Draco Malfoy.
Listen, I don't judge you for being a nerd. You can't judge me for not being one.
It just pains me.
I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter. It was witchcraft.
Just twist the knife in.
But educate me.
Okay. Very, very mild. It's just a nice little get into it. Hermione laid out a tray full of dittany and cast a heat charm with the tip of her wand, massaging her temples slightly with her other hand as she watched the leaves steadily dry. Malfoy was not interested in her, not physically, at least no more than a man tended to be interested in any random woman. She'd studied the physiology of sexual attraction, and he showed almost none of the signs, even after spending several minutes staring baldly at her naked reflection. She flushed. The experience ranked unequivocally as the most embarrassing moment of her life. So what was it all about? Why the kissing and groping? If it was all to provoke and anger her, the question of why still stood. Why did he want to provoke her? What was driving the various tactics he was employing? Initially, he had clearly expected her to be so filled with hatred for him that she couldn't restrain it. Then, when he'd aggressively snogged her to break through her occlumency shields, he'd seemed to think he could use it to get her too consumed by emotions to think clearly. The way he'd appraised her in the mirror had also been clearly intended to sting. He wanted her to hate him. But when he'd realized she was an occlumens, he'd apparently decided to switch tactics again. He'd finally realized why he couldn't provoke her and adapted once more. But adapted for what? What was the point? She couldn't understand it. Yeah.
Kind of a bully romance.
Kind of a bully romance.
Yeah.
Because, obviously in the books for Harry Potter, if you haven't read them or, seen the movies.
Isn't he, not a good guy?
He's technically, a villain. He actually is pretty decent. He's a little bit of a bitch. But, we love Tom Felton. We don't add that to him. But, he is Harry Potter's, direct, enemy.
Okay.
School friend enemy and stuff like that. And Hermione is, very much Harry Potter's friend, bestie.
Yeah.
And, even in the movies, she, punches Draco in the nose and stuff like that. So, there's a very... So shipping the two is really, really fun.
Okay.
And I like that dynamic because she's, the good little, schoolgirl, and he's kind of, this asshole.
Yeah.
But I love it because TikTok has, all of these Booktok, Hermione ships and, little POVs and stuff like that, which are super, super cute. And I remember it was so funny. There was, when I was growing up, there have been a lot of Harry Potter ships throughout it. And there's one world where it's, Harry and Draco.
Oh, shit.
I know. So,
add a little queer spice in there.
There's some different ones, but I really like this one. This has been, my favorite one in Manacled so far because I really love Hermione and I really love Draco Malfoy because it's, Dramione and it's, a ship and, there's a lot of, we don't want to be friends and, into each other, but, we are. And there's
it's a bully romance.
It is. It's a bully romance, but it's, it's a nerdy bully romance.
Yeah,
so you get, the magic and stuff like that. So it's very gentle, but
I love that.
I feel like it's gonna get darker because if you know anything about the series, as it grew with our generation, it got darker and darker and darker because we turned into adults. So I'm kind of curious to see
how it's gonna go
as it goes through the story. How dark are we getting?
Yeah.
So I haven't read it all, but I'm in the midst of it.
I feel like we just gave the listeners options. So many options.
A variety. We will give you an entire list of our recommendations that you can find on our Instagram and everything like that. But you'll have a whole list of recommendations from us, but we want yours. Please. I love book recs.
Variety is the spice of life, baby.
Add to my to-be read pile so I can find sugar daddies that will buy all of them for me.
Sugar mommies. Or daddies.
Zaddies?
Yes. Zaddies.
All of the above.
Well, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved nerding out about that with you.
I could talk about books for
all day.
Eons.
I know.
Eons.
But it's time for us to talk about spicy trauma.
Trauma of the spice variety.
Oh, God. There's so much of it. I can't believe we have not run out of stories yet, but we haven't.
Oh, we never will.
Shit just keeps happening.
Yeah. Or people send us theirs.
Or people send us theirs. Are you going to tell one of your own today, or do you have a
One of my
listener?
own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I'll go first. Mine's
Okay,
like mild
go
and
first.
also kind of like on theme with books.
Perfect.
So there was once upon a time where I just started this series actually, and I
Mm-hmm.
was going traveling. Like I was on a plane, and I get on the plane, and of course, like I've kind of sucked it up now, but at the time, like I hadn't put two and two together that I should like maybe put a different cover on the book, right? Because the covers like they look like they're just like fantasy, like cool, like maybe dark, like books. Like they
can't
don't
really
look
tell.
like the standard like romance or smutty book. Like they have pretty cool like covers. But I understand why like desperate housewives of these towns out here like are covering them because they don't want anybody to know.
Yeah.
So I get on this plane and it's taking forever to get on this motherfucking plane. Like the line is long and I'm just standing there with my book in hand. And cause I was like, I'm just going to get it out of my bag. So like I have it when I get on the plane so I don't have to rummage around and get situated. And I get on there and one of the flight attendants is just chatty Kathy and like a loud chatty Kathy. And she's like, oh my gosh, you like to read. She was like, I never see anybody of your generation reading anymore.
Oh
and
my
I was
God,
just like, okay,
one of those.
cool. And she's all like, ooh, what is that? Tell me all about it. Cause we're just standing there at this point. And I was like, oh, like it's, kind of like about Greek mythology and da da da. And I was like, it's kind of like a romance. And she looks at me and she touches my arm and she goes, is it slutty?
She used the word slutty.
Yeah. Is it slutty? And she's like an older woman, and I just about fucking died on the plane. I'm pretty sure like I've never turned redder in my life because keep in mind like we're right there at the entrance, so you have all the first class people that are just like watching you because they just like watch you. Judgy. Yeah. And she's like, "Is it slutty?" I lost it. I was like, yes.
I was like, what did you say?
I was like, it's a little slutty. I was like, I do think the word that you're going for though is smutty.
Smutty.
And she was like, oh my heavens. Because she had like this really thick accent. She goes, oh my
slutty
heavens.
and smutty.
And she was like, I'm just gonna keep calling it slutty because that's what it is.
Oh my God.
Yes, queen.
But it doesn't sound like she was judging you. It sounded like she was like excited.
I was so worried though because like older generations, you never really know what they're gonna do. So I was kind of telling her about it, and then she like whispers it, and it's so funny because later on, like I was reading it, and she would like walk by. And apparently I wouldn't even notice because I, again, hyper-focused. And she would walk by and she was like, you're at a good part, aren't you? I saw a face that you made earlier. And I was just like, stop it. Stop watching me while I read. But she made me write it down for her, like the whole series and everything like that, and give it to her. Because she like obviously wanted to read it. But yeah, shout out to that flight attendant because like
that's amazing.
I love a good flight attendant that's like that.
Yeah.
But it was just the funniest interaction that I've had. Is it slutty?
I'm going to start asking people that when they tell me about anything. I'm just going to be like, but is it slutty?
Yeah. If it's not, I don't care.
If it's not, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Speaking of slutty, I have...
There's a list.
Oh, God.
Of names and events.
Yeah, events primarily. But this is actually a really funny story. You were with me when this happened.
Ooh.
We were out to dinner together with...
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You were like...
I completely forgot.
Looking like you had no idea where I was going with this. The story is mainly for the audience because you already know what happened, but it's really silly. Preface, my girlfriend and I have like a favorite spot that we go to, a restaurant that we go to frequently, and we go there so frequently for like big events that like the owner of the restaurant like knows us and we know like all of the servers there, and so they talk to us.
And they're so nice.
They're so nice.
Yeah.
They have a cute little speakeasy in the back. Like we love it. So we had Cuppy in town. As most of you guys know, we had as a guest on the podcast. So we were doing a dinner with her like the night before we filmed everything, and we wanted to like show her Dallas and give her a good experience. So we take her to this restaurant, and I put in the notes whenever we booked this restaurant, we have a really big guest coming on for our podcast. We want to like sit somewhere special, right? So we show up, we're having dinner, and then the owner comes over. And like, just to preface, like he's very dad energy.
Oh,
like
this man came up and I was like, this is my father.
Yes.
That's what I felt.
He's everyone's father.
Yeah.
Like that is how it feels, is like
BDE,
Father-
big dad energy.
Father to everyone, daddy to none. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Okay. So that's the man. And he's very sweet. And like, he comes up and he's like, I hear we have like a special guest. And we're like, yeah, like we have a special guest. And he's like, it is just so cool that like, you know, so many of my clients do such cool things. Like, I heard you guys have a podcast. What is your podcast about?
You're like, fuck.
My brain is immediately like, oh shit.
Oh, fuck.
Heart drops to ass. Heart drops to ass, where Cam's fingers were 2 seconds before, which you did not see, but that was going on like right before he walked up too. So
I always anticipate that.
there was a lot of funny business going on at the table, and then he shows up and then he asked this question. So I'm panicking. It was like a form of gay panic, but like not because anything was like gay, just because I was like, I'm in trouble with my dad. Like, I cannot tell him what our podcast is about. So I just completely freeze.
We're both like,
Bridget completely freezes. Cuppy, mind you, Cuppy's just like in the corner, like observing, like not giving a shit because she's not nervous or embarrassed about anything. We're just like, Cam starts to try to like very like nicely give an explanation of the podcast, and she's like, it's just, you know, it's a sex positive podcast. It's educational, blah, blah, blah. Out of nowhere, Cuppy goes, it's about sex.
she was like, it's about BDSM.
It's about BDSM, kink, and sex. And we're like, okay.
I was like, okay, fine.
There it is.
Immediately go into the spiel of what it is.
So then we like pitch it to him, and he's just like,
his face.
oh, he goes, you know, I just never know the things I'm going to hear coming into work.
But like supportive dad energy.
Supportive, but like doesn't want more information dad
Yeah.
energy. You know, he
Yeah.
was like regretting that he asked, but like also just like, good for you, sweetie.
Good for you. I'm not going to listen to your podcast, but I'm going to support you from afar.
I literally told him, I was like, please don't listen. Please don't listen. But afterwards I was like, we have to figure out like a more canned response when people ask us what we talk about that are like people that we don't want them to listen. Like, what do we say?
I'm just not going to worry about it anymore and just tell people.
Oh God.
You know what? It is up to you.
YOLO, I guess.
Yeah.
But shout out to the very nice manager at the restaurant that we always go to. If you are listening,
We love you.
we love you. We love your restaurant. We're so sorry for any trauma we've caused you.
And you do, your fashion sense really does give off zaddy
Amazing.
vibes. Like, it's phenomenal.
Amazing.
We love you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my spicy trauma. With that,
Yeah.
we're going to wrap it up.
Thank you. We want you guys to send your spicy trauma. So don't forget, DM us, send us your shit, because we want to laugh about it.
And cry about it.
And cry about it and whatever.
But not like cry too hard.
Not like
nothing too crazy.
Trauma cry, but like fun cry, because
Funny,
we're laughing so
funny.
hard. We've had some moments. But yeah, we love you guys. We love the fuck out of you.
Go forth.
And have a spicy,
Traumatic-filled day. Be good.
Or don't.
We won't.
Shan't.
Bye.
Bing. Choreography.
So crazy. We really did. We choreographed the shit out of that outro.
Bye.
That was so silly.
If you like today's episode, follow us on social media at Trauma Bondage Pod. Follow Beth at Dancing Gemini and at Bethany Nicole, and Brigitte at Your Fave Femme. If voyeurism is your kink, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Trauma Bondage Podcast, and subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/traumabondagepod.
We have several tiers with bonus content, access to our private Discord server, merch, and other titillating perks. If you know, you know. Production by Wolfstar.
Production assistance by Misery Cord.
Special thanks to Details by Annalise for set design, D. Dumpy for music, and Noelle's art for artwork.